Today, we're going to talk about some potentially shocking things about the RTX 4090 launch that Nvidia may not want you to know. Even if you don't plan on going and buying this GPU on launch, if you're waiting for something else, something cheaper, this is going to give us a good glimpse of what's actually happening in the market. If you guys remember, the AM5 AMD Ryzen 7000 launch was pretty much an absolute disaster. I was there on the day that it launched and nobody was there at all. In fact, I went again today to my local Micro Center to see if I can get some information. This is what the GPU situation currently looks like. As you can see, as you walk around, a lot of GPUs are in stock. You'll see a lot of 3090 Ti's that simply are not selling. Of course, they've really dropped the price on these a significant amount, and you're also going to see a lot of open box GPUs. As people bought GPUs and they saw news coming out and the prices started to drop really fast, a considerable amount of people actually returned these GPUs and got their money back. Who knows if they're waiting for the RTX 4090, but they're sure not keeping these old RTX 3000, and by any standard, they're definitely great GPUs, but anytime a new generation comes out, they're technically old, even though that's a little bit funny to say. So what doesn't Nvidia really want you to know about the RTX 4090? This is what I've been hearing from store employees, and even if you guys watch Moore's Law is Dead on YouTube, he even made very similar commentary. What I heard is that they're going to have a huge amount of RTX 4090s in the shipments. It's not like they're getting only a small amount. I remember RTX 3000, they would get like 10 to 15 GPUs per store. So that means when the GPUs like the 3090 and the 3080 finally launched way back when, they would get only a couple, and sometimes there'd be like 100 people lined up, and only maybe 15 people would be able to get a GPU. And this is at a very busy metro location, very busy store. That was pretty much the story all across the board. Who knows if that wasn't a strategy by Nvidia to have some type of artificial scarcity to really pump up the demand for these GPUs, because that really wasn't that much. The demand was high already, and that wasn't much product to sell to people, or if it really, they had no idea they were going to sell that much and they thought they might as well have a limited launch. Well, now the RTX 4090 seems like a different story. And now let's hear a word from our sponsor. Priced pretty good is a Windows CD key. Today's video sponsor is going to be VIP-CDKdeals.com. Very simple process. You can get a Windows 10 Pro CD key and remember to use code CC20 for a nice discount. Now back to the video. Nvidia knows they're going to have a tough time selling these. I mean, even in their earnings call, they said that they're not doing any more sales of their current GPUs to AIB partners, so that way they can clear the channel, the inventory. Everybody has these GPUs in stocks, all the way down to the retailer, down to the AIB and distributors. Everybody has way too many of these GPUs, and they pretty much stopped buying, trying to get these GPUs sold and out the door. Of course, people are still buying RTX 3000, and going forward, it may actually be a much better deal depending on how cheap the price gets compared to the RTX 40,000. So specifically with the 4090, this now is my opinion from seeing various factors, talking to employees in store. They're not sure, by the way, if they're going to have some type of lottery system where you show up before the store opens and you get a ticket. Now, it's going to be unpredictable. They don't know until the shipment comes in, which might be right before the actual launch, which is on Tuesday. So remember to stay subscribed. I'm definitely going to update you guys and see what's going on with this launch. But last time, people would line up even the day before. There were even people lining up like 2 or 3 days before during, the GPU shortage when we would have a major launch. I do not think that's going to happen now. And even though people are less excited about CPUs, as we can see with Ryzen 7000, nobody bought them and they had to literally give you free DDR5 RAM in order for people to buy them. And then, of course, they started moving. So that shows you that the price was way too high and people did want the new stuff. They just didn't want to spend that much money. When you got the free RAM, a lot more people bought. So that definitely tells you something. Now, will a similar phenomenon happen with the RTX 4090? Its MSRP of $1,600 is expensive by any means. I don't care if you were used to buying GPUs at this price or above the last 2 years because of all the, the pricing issues, but nobody really likes spending this much money on a GPU. I love getting Nvidia GPUs. They're exciting. exciting. Along with AMD recently, they're definitely at the forefront of gaming performance, but $1,600 is definitely pushing it. And look, the RTX 3080 was a fantastic value at $699. That's the price that you would expect to pay for a high-end GPU and get something still absolutely amazing. When you started going into, the 3080 Ti and the 3090, there you expect really exceptional performance, which you didn't really get last generation compared to the 3080. The difference performance-wise was fairly small if you compare a 3080 to 3080 Ti to a 3090. Even up to the 3090 Ti, of course, the performance difference is there for sure, but it wasn't that huge, especially would not justify the cost. Anybody would probably rather get a $699 3080 rather than pay $1499 for a 3090. It's just not twice as good. Those are pretty much the simple facts. But the RTX 4090, and this is something else Nvidia wants you to know. This is going to be different than stuff they don't want you to know. Now, this generation, the 4090, I think we're going to see a difference. Even though we don't have the benchmarks from reviewers yet, that's going to be coming along pretty soon. We do have some numbers from Nvidia themselves and even some speculation of some rumors behind the scenes that, yes, the RTX 4090 is going to perform significantly better than the 3090. We're talking about a huge amount better, maybe as high as 80 to 100% better. And we're not even talking about ray tracing. We're talking about traditional rasterization. That's traditional frames per second performance. And ray tracing, it should be even better. We've seen charts from Nvidia showing the 4090 even against its own 4080, 16 gigabytes, and the performance difference is definitely substantial. So that shows you, I believe, we're going to have a bigger performance difference between the 4090 to the 4080 this generation than we did from the 3090 to the 3080 last generation. That's because maybe Nvidia really wanted to sell the 3080 last generation, but then it switched over to the 3090 as profits got better and people were just buying them left and right. And now they got used to selling the most expensive GPU, so they're making the 4090 really look extra good in my opinion. You can tell by the charts they're releasing. Without having to trust the numbers, if you don't want to trust Nvidia's own numbers, just at least trust at what they're trying to do. They're trying to show you the 4090 is substantially better than the 4080 and all of the other GPUs that come below it. That graph is also interesting because they leave out the 3090 Ti and the 3090 GPUs that they're still going to be selling alongside the 4000 series. And of course, GPUs that are rapidly going down on the secondhand market. That's going to be Nvidia's biggest fear, is that people don't buy an RTX 4090. Instead, they go for like a 3090 used on the secondhand market. No more retail channels. So Nvidia won't see any more of that money. It's all going to go sort of in the used market. And trust me, there are a lot of RTX 3000 GPUs out there. We've been talking about this for the last several weeks. So that's going to be interesting to see if people avoid the 4090 and just go for maybe the cheaper 3000 series. The next few days are going to be very, very interesting. This is what I think is going to happen. Reviewers are going to release the information for the 4090 the day before the release, and it's going to be pretty much glowing across the board. After all, these, even the big reviews, a lot of times I feel like they're just like a marketing extension of Nvidia to a certain extent. Nvidia knows when it has a good product and will push it out to reviewers in many, many different, variations of the 4090. They know the 4090 is going to be powerful. It's going to be impressive. It's a pretty easy marketing win for them. People may complain about Nvidia's business practices and, they're not so nice here. But at the end of the day, if they take their GPUs, they're going to test them and they're going to see that they are indeed great GPUs. Is anybody really going to be surprised when the 4090 is a huge amount better than the other GPUs? I think more important factors to consider are the price and what you can actually get it in the real world. Instead of having a review sample, let's say if I got a 4090 review sample and I'm like, okay, here's my 4090, it performs better than everything else. Now you at home, good luck going and getting yours. You may not get it. You might not even get this exact model. That's very unrealistic. It doesn't really tell you anything. Doesn't make me appreciate the GPU more. But if I go out myself and I buy that 4090 and I'm able to, just like you would, I walk or drive to a store, buy that 4090, pop it in my system, and then I'm like, oh, listen, I spent my own money on this, and this 4090 does this or doesn't do this. It may not make practical business sense in sort of the environment that we're in with reviews and embargoes and things like that. But in my opinion, if I can tell you what actually the experience was buying the GPU, the price that that you paid, it's probably a lot more relevant than just showing a graph that the GPU we know is going to be faster already than everything else. So if I tell you, oh, I had a very hard time buying it at this store, they told me it sold out in this, in my opinion, that's a lot more useful information. Or even don't buy it. Maybe buy a used 3080 that's like $500 now. That may be a better, factor for a lot of people, while maybe the official reviews may not necessarily show you that. That's why I think sometimes they end up being just like an extension of Nvidia's marketing arm. We know the 4090 is going to be good, and they expect a little bit of complaints about the price and maybe about some of the business practices, but you're not going to get a real world view of availability and what you can actually get. Who cares if the 3080 was $699? How many of you out there really got it for $699? Not very many people. All of those reviews were completely oblivious to the fact of what was going to happen with the 3080. And trust me, the people that got them as, maybe samples or early on, they would have no idea what's going on. They would just know by watching videos like I put out or other, creators put out that tell you the real situation out there. So that's why I think something like the launch of the RTX 4090, it's a lot more than a launch of just another GPU. It's going to give us an update as to what the market is like, what the market will accept in terms of pricing now that crypto mining is no longer here, or at least not profitable. Are a lot of people really going to buy that expensive of a GPU in the RTX 4090? I think there will be enthusiasts that will buy it. I want to test it. I want to try it myself. But in general, for most people, I honestly don't think it's going to sell anywhere near what the 3090 did or other GPUs. And I think Nvidia may have a little bit of an AMD AM5 situation here, not to mention big competition from RDNA 3, possibly coming in at cheaper prices and similar performance. So that's going to be something to keep an eye on. So remember to stay subscribed. I'm going to update you guys as I hear more information. Let me know what you think down below, and I'll see you guys on the next video.